Harrison Allman-Varty, Conservative Borough Councillor, joins me this morning. Good morning.
Morning.
Looking sort of festive.
Well, it kind of defeats the point when you've got a jacket on that ruins the words.
Well, you can take the jacket
But for
off.
those that wonder, it says, I'm 60 and I snow it.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. How long did it take to knit it?
I don't know, ask Amazon.
Well, very good, very good. I find this whole story about Albert and Victoria extraordinary, actually, because he was Prince Albert was the husband of Queen Victoria, so he was the consort from 1840 until he died in 1861. So he died very young indeed, and she was so upset, in fact, never recovered from the death of the consort, that there were all these memorials built to him, including the Albert Memorial, which is quite the most stunning piece of architecture, which sits opposite the Albert Hall. Also the Albert Hall itself, and there are many other examples around the country. I just thought I would show you another one of those, which it just happens to be the school I attended.
All right.
And again, which was fashioned for him and a celebration of his life, and there you are. That's but
you must be their best alumni.
I'm not, actually.
Oh.
I'm not. There are many people who went to that school. Ed Sheeran went to the junior school there.
Oh, right.
Laura Wright, of course, the opera singer, she went to that school as well.
No,
me.
That's impressive.
And me. Let's just move on. I mean, amazing, actually. And that, I suppose, shows true love, doesn't it? That when your other half dies and then you go into mourning, which pretty much is what Queen Victoria did ever since his death, and then you pay tribute to him by immortalising him in architecture. I think it's a lovely love
it's
story.
hard to top, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, she set the bar pretty high.
Yeah, you need to up your game, don't you? Also, I mentioned Miranda there. It's a show I never really understood.
Yeah, I mean, I never really watched it.
Your mum does.
Well, yeah, she used to. Morning, Mum.
Morning, Mum.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm not a good person to comment on it because I don't really watch it.
Is it because you're too young?
Maybe a little bit overrated, if I'm allowed to say that.
Yeah, I just wonder if
that offend your viewers.
What does it appeal to a certain age,
I think
particularly
it
of women?
Middle-aged women.
Yeah.
Although that demographic's been getting a lot of attention lately, hasn't it, with what Greg Wallace has been saying.
Well, quite. And we'll talk more about that in just a moment.
Poor Greg. If I can say that. Well, I thought poor Greg, but now more comes out and I think, oh...
Well...
I'm glad I didn't defend him.
I mean, there's a very fine line here, isn't there? And it's about professional responsibility in the way you behave in a workplace and banter. And I think those margins are becoming increasingly blurred, actually.
But what annoys me is the amount of attention the story gets. I feel like there's such bigger things going on.
Of course there are.
Yeah.
But you see, he, you know, whether it's right or wrong, he has been deemed to be a national treasure in many ways. He's fronting all of these shows for the BBC and other channels as well. And the press like nothing more than to build someone up and then knock them down.
Well, yeah, it happens quite a lot. They might do it to you.
Yeah. They probably will. Read tomorrow's papers. And let's just, if you are just joining us this morning, a very good morning to you, 8 minutes past 6. There is really one big story this morning. I just want to show you the front page of the Daily Telegraph. MI5 probes Duke's cash from China. The Times this morning, Duke's spy went into palace. We've got a very pithy headline here from the Mirror. China crisis. This is a terrible look. I mean, it's beyond a terrible look. This is according to the Telegraph. Chinese money given to the Duke of York is being investigated by the security services, according to the Telegraph. Now, Prince Andrew's business venture is understood to have received money from Chinese donors with links to the Communist Party. This disclosure really, I think, is the thin end of the wedge. The alleged spy apparently was a close confidant of the Duke in court documents. He'd been banned from the UK on national security grounds. The Duke himself insists that he ceased all contact with the alleged spy after concerns were raised, and saying that nothing of a sensitive nature was ever discussed. This is in every single paper this morning. He just has a terrible track record at choosing his friends wisely.
We said this outside. He just can't get it right. He's a PR nightmare, and I think, yeah, you're right. His choice in friendship. If you were friends with him, you think, uh-oh,
I'm a wrong 'un.
Yeah, exactly. Something's going to come up. Yeah, so I don't. It's difficult. I mean, I feel like he's always going to say that, though, isn't he? We didn't discuss anything sensitive, because he's not going to say, oh, we discussed all the big things.
But he's the brother of the king.
Well, it makes me think, how easy is it to get to these guys? I mean, is it a case of you show a bit of money to say that you're going to invest in something close to their heart and all of a sudden you're in? I don't know, it makes you think, is the process not rigorous enough to be buddies with these guys?
Well, it's extraordinary because there's another sort of side to this story, because it goes further to say Buckingham Palace has no way of scrutinising the Duke's finances. Now, you have to ask yourself, how does he pay for Royal Lodge? It's a very modest property of 30 bedrooms, and of course, he was adamant that he wasn't going to move out of Royal Lodge. That money is coming from somewhere. The question now hanging in the air is, where is it coming from? I feel deeply sorry for the King, actually, because the transition from his mother to him becoming monarch was never going to be easy. But actually, I think the King's done a really good job. And here we have his brother, yet again, causing problems for the royal family.
You know, I'm currently watching the end of The Crown, right? And that's all about kind of popularity and approval ratings, and how the royal family kind of constantly were looking about making sure they were in step with public mood.
Yes.
And I'm sure lots of insiders and the King himself will be very upset with this story, because they'll just think it's certainly not going to help their cause.
So there's other parts to this story as well, if you are just waking up. The King was made aware of this MI5 investigation into his brother and the alleged links to the Chinese agent before that bombshell judgment where the King then said, you're on your own. You have to pay for yourself. So this has been out in public or within the confines of the palace for some time. I was just looking back, actually. There's a wonderful article, if you have time to read it, in the Telegraph. 50 years of humiliation, a timeline of Prince Andrew's most scandalous moments. I mean, it is quite extraordinary. If you go back to the 1980s...
His memoirs are going to be a bestseller.
Well, are they? Well, are they? If you go back to the 1980s, the Koo Stark years and Randy Andy. Koo Stark, you're too young, but he dated this model actress, Koo Stark, after meeting her on a blind date in the 1980s.
Right.
She had appeared in a naked shower scene for a film in 1976 called Emily. She was deemed to be an unsuitable partner for a member of the royal family. And then he was called Randy Andy. Because basically he was caught in the girls' house at Gordonston for the first 3 days, but that never, ever left him. This idea that he was Randy Andy, he was the Playboy Prince, he flew around the world. I mean, there are a lot of stories about how he likes flying in helicopters. And, of course, with all of that comes the trappings of success and family.
Yeah, I think you've got to be so careful these days, you know, with what people can say. And all of it, even if it's not true, you're still screwed, aren't you? I mean, you can say anything now, and the whole innocent until proven guilty is out the window. Someone just has to say something, and if you're out of line, you're done for. And I think on his memoirs, I think if he did release them, most of us have already read it over the past few years, really, so maybe it wouldn't be a bestseller.
Well, absolutely, in instalments. What does it say about the royal family? Because the King is very, very clear. He wants to have a narrowed-down royal family, which I think he's found to his detriment isn't always the right thing to do when he's been ill, Camilla's been ill, and then Kate's been ill. But at the same time, he has to show value for money to the public. Then you've got your brother, who you can't control.
I think it's difficult because someone like him would maybe want to micromanage on lots of different things, whether it's his brother or whether it's his son. You know, I feel like there are such, I guess, more pressing things, and he has to not let these individuals tarnish his own name. That's the problem with a big team. You know, people can ruin it for you. So it's unfortunate when they're that in the inner circle, though.
But surely, if you're on the civil list and if you are being looked after under the auspices of that family, then you have a duty to do what you were born into, which is actually to support the family, not to run around as Air Mars Andy.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm
just throwing it out there.
He can't help himself. But then again, it is human nature, isn't it? For someone like him, if he's given such power, if he's given such, you know, title and money, is it not just kind of a natural human desire to kind of fulfill it, and not justifying what he's doing, but to fulfill it to the max, really?
Well, is there an issue here which, and we talked about this a lot with William and Harry, an heir and a spare? If you're the spare, what do you do? What is your raison d'etre?
Smile and wave.
Smile and wave, or become really miserable and think, actually, I deserve a position in this world?
Or feel disenfranchised and go off to California.
Exactly,
yeah.
Exactly.
But then again, that makes you think you can't blame, really, because you think, well... I mean, I personally...
Which one are you talking about, Harry?
I'm talking about Harry now, right? I mean, I personally think what he's done is extremely negative and damaging and very self-interest and all that sort of stuff. But part of me, a small part of me does think, yeah, but if you were him, would you want to go and try and live your best life that you could in America?
Yes, fine. You can live your best life, just don't ram it down our throats.
Yes, true. Yeah,
and
also don't try to take them out while you're leaving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about this, because this made my blood boil this morning. This is an article saying Brussels... so Keir Starmer very keen to reignite the relationship between us and Europe, of course. Brussels is going to demand that Britain surrenders fishing rights and follows European Union laws for the first time since Brexit, as this is going to be the price of a new trade deal with Keir Starmer. Apparently, EU leaders intend to make the UK accepting, wait for this, the jurisdiction of the European Court of Justice a red line for a better trading relationship. I cannot believe what I'm reading. What on earth was Brexit all about? We still haven't actually got a full fat Brexit. And here we are, Starmer, who's got enough problems in this country, pandering to the European Union, essentially going to rewrite all of these rules. Has he actually got no sense of a moral compass? Has he got no... I actually don't think he has a compass when it comes to being on the button in terms of political policy.
Well, I mean, he's obviously a Remainer at heart. I mean,
he is.
And, you know, I think this is part of his wider reset, which he keeps mentioning.
What, ignore the people who voted?
Reset with the EU. And I think... Do you know, part of this deal will be, because he keeps talking about the under 30-year-olds free movement. I don't know if have you heard about this?
I have, yeah. It's part of the deal.
But I'm not sure how many under 30-year-olds would want to go to Europe. I mean, most people want to go to, you know, Australia or Asia. I mean, I don't think, if they do go to Europe, they only go not for that long. And, you know, I think he's misjudged the kind of the mood on that. I don't think it's worth sacrificing. I mean, fishing, the whole fishing thing was a massive thing in the Brexit
Well, it was
debate.
also a massive mess. We never got control of our sovereign waters, and I'm thinking about June Mummery, who was a former MEP with me. She will be incandescent at what is going on. She runs a big fish market in Lowestoft, and this situation is extraordinary. So foreign boats would be able to fish in UK territorial waters. Sorry, no.
Yeah. It's gonna. Do you know what as well? It's gonna really hurt our optics with the incoming administration in the US as well, because it's gonna look like, just like with Theresa May, that we are trying to pander to the EU again, which our selling point to the Trump administration was, we are free of this big trading bloc, let's do something funky, and we're trying to go back in. Yeah. We're going to look pathetic. Well,
in fact, the US has actually pretty much mooted, either you're with us or you're with Europe. Yeah. And now it's looking increasing like we are Europhiles. Now,
I don't completely agree with that, because I don't think it is binary, right? Because that's...
Neither do I.
That's stupid, right? But I can agree with why they're saying that, and I think if you were to hedge your bets, I'd hedge it more with the US, because I think that would remedy a lot of the problems that, for example, Rachel Reeves is trying to sort out, which is kind of productivity and getting people to take a bit more risk and all that sort of stuff, which I think you'd get more...
I thought she was actually raising taxes. That's what she's doing.
That's what she's saying. I mean, this is very different. What she says and what she does is very different. As
40 billion.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, and what she's saying about how she wants to help business, I find it quite insulting, though, don't you? That she can sit there with a straight face and say about how she's doing all this for business. But businesses must be sat there and thinking, but that's not the case.
Well, so the businessmen and women I've spoken to say that she has no idea what she's talking about. They will lay people off because, of course, employers' national insurance will go up. Yeah. Their businesses are going to struggle, and she has absolutely no understanding and no comprehension of what she's done. And that I find really interesting. She's doubling down, saying this is the right thing, it's the right course for our onward journey.
But all for what? I mean, all for what? All for spending?
For spending, because Labour is very good at spending other people's money. That's what they are known for.
But, I mean, you know, carbon capture, right? That was in the news the other day. What's that, 22 billion? What is that, the same size as a black hole? There you go, sorts it.
Yeah, I've solved the problem. Also, just if you are choking on your breakfast cereal this morning, which I was when I was reading this, apparently the EU will do a deal on food exports only if Starmer agrees to put all existing and new European laws on food and agriculture, known as SPS, into British legislation. There's one more bit. It would also require the government and the House of Commons to abide by rulings from the European Court of Justice on matters of EU law. No, we've left.
It's getting a bit close to the bone again, isn't it? I mean, the whole talk about the ECHR, and then they're talking about it getting even closer.
Sucking you back in.
Yeah, so I don't think they're very good at reading the room.
Any room.
To say the least.
I don't think
I don't know what room they are reading. I wonder who's in that room.
Well, and also, one of the other stories that's
Tony
linked...
Blair.
What, he's in the room?
Probably.
Probably.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a big article. We're going to talk about Tony Blair later on. But also, there's another big story this morning about the energy policy, of course, which is net zero. And they're going to put all these pylons across Norfolk and Suffolk, which I'm particularly...
You've got an interest there.
Well, I haven't... yes, because I don't want a pylon right the way through my garden.
Oh, do you not?
No, funnily enough. But all
does wonders to your house price.
Does it now? So there are lots of questions I have for you this morning. I want to know your thoughts, and this has been bubbling along for the last few days. Has the government actually got its energy policy right? Are we all whooping and leaping for joy that we are moving to on and offshore wind turbines with pylons coming across this green and pleasant land? How about some nuclear power, a technological advance? Let me know your thoughts on that. Also, I'm keen to know, based on all of the front pages this morning, how do you solve a problem like Prince Andrew? I'm David Bolt. 11 days to go until Christmas. I'm joined by Harrison. Yay! I'm joined by Harrison Allman-Varty.
Morning.
This morning. Good morning.
Morning. I should probably say, because I probably should, because if you've got any new viewers, it says...
Go on, please tell us.
It says, I'm sexy and I snow it.
Shouldn't you take the jacket off?
Well,
then
I'm coupled up.
Oh, I see.
We'll sort that in the break.
We'll sort it in the break, because otherwise you're going to do this every ad break. You'll come back and say what your jumper says. But well done on having a Christmas jumper. The last 2 weeks, I think, I asked people to come in Christmas attire, and they didn't.
Yeah. Well, do you know, because normally it's quite hard to compete with you, but, you know, the bar's a bit low today, David.
Why is it low?
Well, words on the street that it's low.
Well, that's that feisty producer, Gabriella. Ever since she came back from Italy, she's not the same. Yeah. Let's take you through this morning's front pages, if I can. Let's start with the front page of the Times. This story is everywhere. Duke spy went to palace. So an alleged Chinese spy who has been banned from Britain on national security grounds entered Buckingham Palace, St James's Palace and Windsor Castle at the invitation of, wait for this, Prince Andrew. This is a Chinese businessman, 50. He cannot be named for legal reasons. He was invited to Buckingham Palace twice, went to a function at St James's Palace, another event at Windsor Castle, and the alleged spy was invited as a guest to the Duke of York's birthday at Royal Lodge. Now, he was barred from entering the UK when he was stopped at the border under counter-terrorism laws. That is in 2001. And details of this connection to the royal family emerged in a hearing on Thursday where he tried and failed to have the ban overturned. A statement from the Duke's office last night asserted that Andrew had ceased all contact with the businessman. This story carries on, actually, on other papers as well. This is the front page of the Daily Telegraph this morning. MI5 probes Duke's cash from China. I'm going to paraphrase this, but basically we know that Andrew doesn't have a huge amount of cash. He lives in a very modest 13-bedroom house.
Not bad.
Not bad, and he has to pay for it. Now, the King was keen to move him out of Royal Lodge, but it looks like he's staying there. Chinese money given to the Duke of York is being investigated by the security services, according to the Telegraph. Now, Prince Andrew's business venture is understood to have received money from Chinese donors with links to an alleged Communist Party spy. In the copy, it says the alleged spy, described as a close confidant of the Duke in court documents, had been banned from the UK, as we found out, on national security grounds. Now, the Duke says he ceased all contact with the alleged spy, but this really does raise some very serious questions about where this money is coming from, who is this man, what are the links to the Chinese Communist Party, and there are a lot of questions that need to be answered. Apparently, though, and this is the bit I found very difficult to understand, the Buckingham Palace has no way of scrutinising the Duke's finances. What?
I wonder where the money's going. He said his business.
That's a very good question.
I wonder what he's doing.
But wouldn't you have thought that if you're part of the firm, you would have some sort of oversight over the money?
Yeah, you'd think there'd be an auditor back there, don't you? Just thinking, where's this coming from?
If you're living in it, I mean, it's not quite Grace and Favour House, but if you are living in a beautiful house and you are the brother of the king, there ought to be some sort of transparency.
Well, you think
or at least company accounts or whatever it is filed. Yeah. So, well, you would think so, absolutely.
But no, I'd like to know what business ventures he's doing. I mean, is it just a charity thing, maybe? Or is it an actual entrepreneurial kind of...
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. Pitch at the Palace. Do you remember that?
Nope.
You don't?
No.
Pitch at the Palace was Andrew's great brainwave, essentially, Dragon's Den, if you like.
Right.
So he would invite businesses to Buckingham Palace. That's quite a good calling card. And the idea is to assemble entrepreneurs, and then you bring in the budding business people,
like it.
and you put them together. Yeah, great. And it doesn't raise any money. However, my understanding is it's been rolled out across the world, and it does generate money.
Okay.
So using
Do they
his...
still do it?
I think it has been discontinued currently.
Okay.
Let's just put it that way. It can be revealed. Now, this is the bit that's really interesting about this story. The King was made aware of the MI5 investigation into his brother and the links to the alleged Chinese agent prior to the judgment that exposed their friendship. And that, we believe, is why the King decided to cut ties with Andrew.
So maybe he knew.
He definitely knew, didn't he? Or maybe, allegedly. Allegedly knew.
It's not gonna help him. It's not gonna help him at all.
I just think when you've got to a stage where you have been in some ways rehabilitated after everything that's been going on with Prince Andrew, it's just another nail in the coffin, isn't it?
With Charles, you know, he's had the longest kind of training period of any employee ever, if you'd like to put it that way. I mean, seriously, you'd think he would have nailed this. But
well, I don't think it's the King that's at fault.
No, I know, but it's almost like you'd think you'd have nailed operations.
But you can't control your brother.
No, true.
Can you?
Try and mitigate as much as possible.
Well, William found out, didn't he? Can't control your brother. This is the front page of the Daily Mirror. China crisis. It's exactly the same story. Daily Mail front page this morning. Andrew has known China spy for 10 years. That is the big headline. The pair met apparently in 2012, and it was not until 2022, after the former Chinese civil servant was rumbled by security services, that the Duke of York dropped him. It was claimed. In those 10 years, Andrew appointed him a trusted business advisor, according to court papers which were disclosed. Rachel Reeves, our favourite character here. This is the FT.
Oh, we love her.
We love Rachel Reeves. Blow to Reeves as the economy shrinks. Now, the Labour government was hoping desperately they would see an uptick in terms of the economic performance of this country. Chancellor Rachel Reeves' mission to boost Britain's growth rate has run off the tracks. The economy unexpectedly shrank 0.1% in October.
Unexpectedly?
Well, I'm reading.
Yeah.
Unexpected. Well, no, well, it's a great point.
Based on the forecasts, yeah, it's unexpected.
Well, it goes back, you know, if you are doom and gloom and then you find 20 billion budget hole and then you up it to 40 billion, is it any wonder that businesses think, I'm not going to carry on?
I agree. I mean, you give the government a lot of stick, rightfully so, sure. But you've got to think, though, I actually thought they were pretty good at talking up the economy, right? You heard Jeremy Hunt when he was there. He goes, oh, we've got this project going and they're the best here and they're
You mean the former government?
Former government.
Yeah.
Did I not say that?
No.
Former government. Jeremy Hunt, right? I thought he was pretty good at that, right? I thought, yeah, no, he has highlighted all the good. And actually, investors will like that. They like the reassurance. And they actually did leave a decent inheritance, I think, to the Labour government. And we all know now, it's all come out, that the reason we've had to have these tax rises are political decisions to fund what they basically want to do.
The pay rises for the unions.
Not just the pay rises, it's the big carbon capture projects, it's the big climate aid deals, it's all this sort of stuff that they wanted to do from the start. They needed a getaway, they got it, they funded it, and now it's being paid back in their decline.
You see, the real travesty here is that it's ordinary people who get caught up in this, because inflation has been running rampant, it was starting to come under control, and where people see this is in their mortgage payments.
Yeah.
And they're going to stay higher longer.
And what's really scary about, obviously, a decline if the decline keeps on happening, and it is unexpected, obviously, the OBR and all these big forecasters forecast based on that economy growing to that rate, which means they got more revenue. If that doesn't happen, it's quite risky. If it doesn't happen, then obviously more tax rises, which is why she hasn't ruled out further tax rises. And because of those big bumper pay rises, you know, interest rates, you know, inflation has peaked its head a little bit, and, you know, the Bank of England will be resistant to interest rate cuts, which has huge impacts on people's mortgages and businesses because of people on loans. So, once again, it's just, this is just Labour, though, isn't it, with the economy? I mean, anybody... I want one of those bumper stickers, you know, where people had those really smarmy bumper stickers that said, don't blame me, I voted Remain. I want one of those that says, don't blame me, I didn't vote Labour, kind of thing. Yeah.
But, of course, we're also hearing from the unions that they want more pay rises, despite the fact they've had these record pay rises. Well, you know, the public sector workers will be handed another $1 billion a year in pension contributions on top of the pay rises. This was in the papers yesterday. Millions of teachers, civil servants and NHS workers in line for an inflation-busting 2.8% pay jump.
But they're on a collision course. Is it the GMB union?
Yep.
With Ed Miliband, because Ed Miliband's big net zero craze looks like he's going to with the unions because of all the cull of the jobs in oil and gas. Finally, someone's going to talk up about this. But I wonder who wins that debate.
Well, I wonder.
Net zero unions in Labour.
I have to just get through the rest of the papers. Daily Express front page. Stop crashing Britain's economy. That's the headline in the Daily Express. This is The Guardian. The plan to topple Assad, actually, according to this article, Syrian rebels began plotting that military assault that toppled the Assad regime a year ago. A highly disciplined operation by all accounts, and clearly, obviously, very successful. And the speed and efficiency it was carried out, I think, really is quite remarkable. Just taking you through the front pages this morning, I did want to just have a little more time to talk about this one. And I know this is true. The front page of the Weekend. Smart gadgets, what are you buying and sticking in your house? Smart gadgets are spying on us more than ever, with air fryers now recording your conversation. What?
Whoa.
That's
I mean,
wild.
obviously everybody knew about the Alexa stuff.
Yes.
And people used to throw their damp towels over the Alexa to keep it...
Well, you can mute her.
Yeah, well, you can, but then again...
But she's still listening.
You know what? And don't take my word for this, because it might be wholly untrue, but apparently there was a court case, and they said, did they have an Alexa? And they went, yes. I went, all right, we'll bring it in and we'll listen to the conversation beforehand. Apparently.
What? So they're cross-examining Alexa?
Not on the stand.
Did you know this?
Plug her in, yes. Tell us a joke. Yeah,
I'm not sure that is true, but it's really but it is fascinating. We've talked about this before.
Huge data collection.
I mentioned something the other day in my house about something or other, and then all the adverts popped up just by magic. I'm not even sure I was near Alexa.
You don't even have to mention it anymore. Even if it's a case of you searching on your desktop computer, it's up on your phone. So they're all in sync and they're all sharing data. Oh, yeah, big time.
Yes, I'm being told by Gabriella, your phone is listening to you the whole time.
Whole time. Because you know when you sign up to your phone and it says, and you're so excited you got a new phone, and it says...
T's and C's.
Yeah, agree, and it's like 32 pages. I'm not reading all that. I only got my new phone. That's in there, probably.
Crikey. Just very quickly, the Sun front page this morning. This is Greg. I'm done. Greg Wallace has told friends he expects to be sacked following an investigation into his alleged sexual harassment and groping. We've talked about this a lot over the last couple of weeks.
I think we're Gregged out.
Pardon?
We're Gregged out.
We are Gregged out. And the Daily Star front page this morning, Sandwich Gate is the headline. Butty Botherer gives sarnies a chance. There's this big row breaking out about whether a sandwich is really a very good thing to have.
I mean, it's hard-hitting stuff.
We're winding down to Christmas, can you tell?
But, yeah, I mean, I don't know what Kemi Badenoch was going at here with this story. I don't know if she thought people are going to go there, yes. That's who I want. Someone who really stands up for lunch.
Who hates
lunch.
Who hates sandwich?
Nigel went after it, didn't he? Because Nigel Farage released a video on Twitter X, and he was like, "This is a proper sandwich or whatever."
With a pint.
Yeah. and she then responded saying, "Oh, look at that boring old white meat or whatever," something like that, right? Meaning kind of aiming at Nigel. And Nigel went back saying, "Oh, is this you?" about saying all laps on immigration stuff.
But, you couldn't make it up, could you?
No.
I like a hog roast.
But to be fair, there's nothing going on in this country, is there? There's no problem.
Oh, nothing at all. It's all rosy. Let's talk about this story which you found. This is in the Times, page 25, about a skyscraper.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so skyscraper to stand as tall as a shaft. This should be undershaft, something undershaft it's called. And I don't know the number, but it should be really quite cool. I think, you know, my big pet peeve has always been, instead of... with these housing targets, now the council I represent is Elmbridge, so if you any of you from Elmbridge, one of the one of the lucky 130,000 of you that live there, our housing targets went up by 121%. So I think the onus is on major cities like London and Leeds and Manchester. There it is. I think it's a beauty.
Do you?
Yeah, to build up and increase the density, because London's density per kilometre is actually quite low compared to other major cities like New York or Hong Kong or whatever.
Yeah, good point.
So I think it's on the big cities to kind of up their game. And yeah, I think build up. I think that looks quite cool. I like it.
I think it's a bit retro when you compare it to the Shard.
Look, I mean, yeah. it's a bit boring.
It's a bit boring. It's a tower.
But it's cool.
Yeah, okay, it's
I like
cool.
it. I like skyscrapers.
I mean, it's amazing. I've lived in London since I was 18, and I've seen I've seen pretty much every tower being built around here. And when I moved to Canary Wharf, there was one tower, and now look at it.
Oh, it's mega. But that's the power of good planning. I mean, they dropped lots of planning regulations there, kind of made it an area to... And that's how it should be done. There's so much red tape.
But also, Canary Wharf is a private development, isn't it, on the island? So
it's a company, though, isn't it?
It's a company, yeah. So it seems that they can do... Well, at least they have vision, and it all links together, and there's a lot I could say about that.
It's a state of the art.
It is state of the art. Well, that'll be interesting. I've got a message here from Jane. Good morning, festive looking, glamorous David, and say hi to my handsome grandson.
Oh.
That's Jane.
Hi, Jane. Oh,
your grandmother.
Hasn't Jane come in again?
She's your grandmother?
No, my grandmothers are Sandra and Janice, but I'll take a third.
Oh, so she's not your grandmother?
No, didn't she write in before about her being my grandson? Maybe it's an ongoing thing.
Maybe it's an ongoing thing. Darren says... we were talking about who your fan base is. Darren says, ooh, can we have more Harrison on, please?
Oh, sure. We've got to speak to the producer.
Yes, you have. You have. Lots of other messages coming in. Nigel says the Prince Andrew story is unsurprising. Since 1953, the 48 group icebreakers have represented Chinese business interests in the UK. The list of UK politicians involved is large, including Blair, 2 former deputy prime ministers, Heseltine and Prescott. Thank you for that. Good morning. Good morning, David. Margaret, currently in Tunisia. Good morning.
Worldwide you are.
I am, absolutely. And there isn't a part of this world I don't go to. Starmer sees the UK's future as part of an enlarged European government. I would agree with that. One president, one army, and each country would be uniform. Guess it's sounding like communism. That is exactly what they want to achieve.
That's the dream.
That is the dream, a federal Europe controlled by Brussels.
Well, he liked Davos over Westminster, though, didn't he? That's what he said. He famously...
What a terrible answer.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
But they loved it, didn't they? Emily Mason, she loved that answer.
Well, of course she did, but normal people didn't. They didn't like that.
No.
Thank you for Margaret, who is currently in Tunisia. I'm also asking about Labour's energy policy. Has it got its energy policy right? The government, that is. Good morning, David, says Jackie, one of our regulars. Labour's energy policy
Morning, Jackie.
Jackie
wonder which one that
is an egregious act of self-harm which they are inflicting on the British people. If a dictator in another country harm their citizens to make them colder and to make them poorer, we would rightly condemn their authoritarian control. What is the difference to what is happening to us? It's a great point. And I'll just do one more. Sam says, good morning, David. I'm absolutely livid at any discussion over giving back fishing rights to the EU. And I was wondering if there is a petition for a general strike so we can bring this government down.
That'd be heavy, wouldn't it? Tell you what, they're smart, your viewers, aren't they?
They're very smart.
Yeah, that's what
but the disconnect, this is the hypocrisy, the disconnect of saying to voters, this is what we're going to do, or not what we're going to do when we get into government, and then basically just doing a U-turn on all of that. And all of these things that we fought really hard for, out the window.
Oh yeah, I mean, talk about say one thing, do another. It is quite short-termism, though, isn't it? It means that hopefully that it will be out when the time comes. The question is, can we last that long?
Well, can we last that long? I mean, you know, a week is a long time in politics, let alone 5 years of this.
Where will we be then?
Well,
will we be eating anything? Will we be candles?
Yes, we will have candles. We're not eating anything and life will be miserable. Oh, that sounds great. Harrison, stay where you are. So much more still to come. Harrison will rejoin after this break. Good morning.